When Nkechi saw her reflection in the trader's mirror that morning, she screamed so loudly that every woman in the market dropped their baskets. But it was not her own face staring back at her. It was the face of a woman with eyes like burning coals, skin pale as moonlight, and a smile that promised things no living person should know. The mirror showed her future, and in that future, she was not alone. The reflection whispered in a voice only Nkechi could hear. 3 times you will marry. 3 times you will bury, and only then will you see your true face. Nkechi was born in the small village of Okan, where the river bent like a sleeping snake and the forest whispered secrets to those brave enough to listen. She was the youngest daughter of a palm wine tapper, a man whose hands were calloused from climbing tall trees, but whose heart was soft as fresh yam. Her mother had died bringing her into the world, and the villagers said this was a sign. She grew up thin as bamboo in the wind, with skin dark as wet earth, and eyes that seemed to see things others could not. Her hair was always wild, refusing to be tamed by any comb, and she wore simple wrappers of faded cloth that her elder sisters passed down to her. The women of Okan whispered when she walked by, their voices carrying on the breeze like smoke from cooking fires. "That girl has something in her," they would say, pounding cassava in their mortars. "Something that does not belong in this world." But Nkechi paid them no mind. She went to the river each morning to fetch water in her clay pot, walked through the yam fields helping her father, and kept her strange visions to herself. Because Nkechi had always seen things, shadows that moved when nothing cast them, whispers in empty rooms, dreams that came true 3 days later. The day everything changed was market day in Okan. Nkechi had come to trade her father's palm wine for salt and dried peppers. She moved through the crowded market with her basket balanced on her head, her wrapper swirling around her ankles. That was when she saw it. The mirror. It sat on an old trader's mat, half hidden beneath bolts of cloth and strings of cowrie shells. The trader was a man no one in Okan knew, with a face like weathered wood and eyes that revealed nothing. "You," he called to Nkechi, his voice rough as stones grinding together. "Girl with the seeing eyes, come here." Nkechi's feet moved before her mind could stop them. The mirror was not like others she had seen. It was framed in dark wood carved with symbols that seemed to shift when she was not looking directly at them. "Look," the trader commanded. "Look and see what the spirits have written for you." Nkechi looked, and what she saw made her blood turn to water in her veins. The face in the mirror was not her face. It was pale as clouds, with eyes that burned red as embers and lips curved in a smile that spoke of hunger and ancient knowing. Behind her, Nkechi could see shadows. 3 shadows, 3 men, each one there, and then gone. And then there was only darkness. The reflection's lips moved. 3 times you will marry. 3 times you will bury, and only then will you see your true face. Nkechi stumbled backward, her basket falling, palm wine gourds crashing to the ground. When she blinked, the trader was gone, vanished like smoke. The women at the market rushed to her side, clucking their tongues in sympathy, but Nkechi barely heard them. Her mind was still trapped in that mirror, still seeing those 3 shadows, still hearing that terrible prophecy. 6 moons passed. Nkechi tried to forget what she had seen in the trader's mirror. She told herself it had been a trick of the light, a moment of madness brought on by the hot sun. Then Chuma came. He was a fisherman from a neighboring hamlet, strong as an iroko tree, with shoulders broad from pulling nets and hands scarred from years of working with hooks and lines. He had heard of Nkechi, heard the whispers about the strange girl who saw visions, and instead of fear, he felt curiosity. He came to her father's compound one evening, carrying a basket of fresh fish and a gourd of honey. Nkechi's father, growing old and worried about his daughter's future, welcomed him with open arms. Chuma courted Nkechi with kindness, bringing gifts, listening when she talked about her dreams and visions, never once making her feel strange or cursed. For the first time in her life, Nkechi felt something like happiness. They were married when the harvest moon was full. Nkechi wore a new wrapper of bright red cloth, her hair braided with cowrie shells, her waist adorned with beads. The villagers danced and sang. Palm wine flowed like the river after rain. And for one perfect night, Nkechi forgot about the mirror. 3 moons of happiness followed. Chuma was a good husband. He brought home fish to smoke and sell at the market. He laughed easily and often. He held Nkechi at night and told her stories about the river. But the visions grew stronger. Every night, she dreamed of water, dark water, deep water, water that pulled and sucked and swallowed. And in the water, she saw Chuma's face, his eyes wide with terror. She tried to warn him. "Do not go to the deep water," she begged one morning. "Please, husband, stay in the shallows today." Chuma laughed and kissed her forehead. "The deep water is where the big fish swim, wife. Do not worry." That afternoon, a storm came. Not the usual afternoon rain, but something else. Something violent and sudden and full of rage. The sky turned black as charcoal. The wind howled like wounded animals. The river rose and churned and became something hungry. When they found Chuma's boat 3 days later, it was broken against the rocks downstream. His body was tangled in his own nets, his face pale and bloated, his eyes staring at nothing. The village gathered for the burial. Nkechi stood silent as stone, her wrapper black as the soil they threw over her husband's grave. She did not cry, because she had known. She had seen it. "Poor child," the women whispered, "married only 3 moons and already a widow." "I told you she was marked," the eldest said. "That girl carries death in her shadow. 3 times you will marry, 3 times you will bury. 1 down, 2 more to go." She returned to her father's compound, a widow at 17. The villagers avoided her now. Mothers pulled their sons away when she walked by. Men averted their eyes. 2 harvests passed. Nkechi thought perhaps if she remained alone, the prophecy could not fulfill itself. But Obinna came from another village, a trader who traveled between settlements selling cloth and bronze jewelry and mirrors. He was handsome in a way that made women sigh, with skin smooth as polished wood and a voice like honey melting on the tongue. He wore fine wrappers dyed in indigo, brass bracelets on both wrists, and beads around his neck. And for reasons Nkechi could not understand, he wanted her. "I have heard of you," he said, "the woman who sees beyond the veil. Your gift does not frighten me. It intrigues me." He courted her with persistence, bringing gifts her father could not refuse. He spoke to the village elders, promised a bride price that would make Nkechi's father comfortable for the rest of his days. "You should accept him," her father urged. "This is your chance, daughter." They were married when the dry season had fully settled. This ceremony was smaller, quieter. The villagers came because custom demanded it, but their eyes held wariness. "Twice married," the women whispered. "Let us see if this one survives the year." Obinna took Nkechi to his compound in a different hamlet. It was larger than anywhere she had lived, with multiple huts and woven mats that felt soft beneath her feet. He had 2 other wives who looked at Nkechi with suspicious eyes. For a time, things seemed good. Obinna was wealthy, his trading prosperous. But Nkechi began to notice things. Strange things. Obinna's mirrors. He had dozens of them, in every hut, leaning against walls, wrapped in cloth. When she asked him about them, his face grew cold. "Never touch my mirrors," he said, his voice sharp as a knife's edge. "Never look into them when I am not here." 6 moons into the marriage, Obinna began to change. His skin grew pale. His eyes developed a strange gleam. He stopped eating meals with his wives. At night, Nkechi heard him speaking in languages she did not know. The other wives noticed too. "He is dealing with spirits," the eldest whispered. dark spirits, spirits that should not be called. One night, Nkechi woke to find Obinna standing over her sleeping mat, his eyes glowing in the darkness. In his hand, he held one of his mirrors. "I chose you because you can see," he whispered. "I need you to look into this mirror. I need you to tell me what the spirits say." "No," Nkechi said, trembling. "I will not." Obinna grabbed her arm, his fingers digging into her flesh like claws. "You will do as I command, wife. Look." He thrust the mirror before her face, and Nkechi looked. In the mirror's surface, she saw Obinna's true face. Not the handsome trader, but something else. Something wearing Obinna's skin, like a wrapper. Something that had been feeding on him, slowly consuming him, using his body to walk in the world of the living. The entity smiled at her through Obinna's face. "Now you see," it said. "Now you know what your husband truly is." Nkechi screamed. She tore herself from Obinna's grasp and ran from the hut. Behind her, she heard Obinna laughing, but it was not his laugh. It was something ancient and hungry. She ran to the other wives' hut. "We must leave. He is not who he seems." "I know," the eldest wife whispered, her face pale with terror. "I have known for a long time. But where can we go?" That night, they huddled together, listening to Obinna moving through the compound, conducting rituals that made the very air feel wrong. 3 days later, Obinna was found dead in his private hut, surrounded by his mirrors. Every single mirror was shattered, and Obinna himself lay in the center, his body twisted in ways that should not be possible, his face frozen in such terror that the men who found him could not look at it. The healer came to examine the body. He took one look and backed away quickly. "This man was taken," he said, his voice shaking. "Something was using him, something from beyond the veil, and when it finished with him, it discarded him like a worn wrapper." Nkechi returned to Okan again, a widow for the second time. And this time, the village did not even pretend to welcome her. People moved aside when she walked past. The chief himself told her father that Nkechi should live on the outskirts of the settlement. "2 husbands dead," the villagers said, no longer whispering. "Both in terrible ways. That woman is death itself." Nkechi built herself a small hut at the forest's edge. She lived alone, surviving on what little her father could bring her. She spoke to no one, trusted no one, and every night she counted. 2 down, 1 more to go. She tried to avoid all men, all attention, all possibility of the 3rd marriage. But fate always collects what it is owed. His name was Ezi, and he found her 2 years later. He was a healer from a distant settlement, older than her previous husbands, with gray threading through his hair and lines of wisdom carved into his face. His eyes were kind, and when he looked at Nkechi, he did not see a curse. He saw a woman suffering under terrible injustice. "I know your story," he said when he approached her hut one evening. "I have heard what the villagers say about you, and I do not believe it." "You should," Nkechi replied. "I am cursed. Anyone who marries me dies." Ezi smiled sadly. "Perhaps, or perhaps someone wants you to believe you are cursed. Either way, I am not afraid." He came every day after that, bringing food, talking to her, never pushing, just offering companionship. Slowly, Nkechi began to trust him. "I will not marry you," she told him one evening. "The prophecy said 3 times, if there is a 3rd marriage, you will die." As he took her hand, "Then we will not marry. We will simply live, together, without ceremonies or village celebrations. Just 2 people choosing to share their lives." And so they did. Ezi moved into Nkechi's hut at the forest's edge. They lived quietly for 3 years. 3 years of happiness that Nkechi had never imagined possible. But the spirits do not accept loopholes. One morning, Nkechi woke to find Ezi sitting on the edge of their sleeping mat, his face troubled. "I had a dream," he said quietly. "A dream about why this keeps happening." "Tell me," Nkechi whispered. Ezzy took a deep breath. "The curse is not yours. It never was. The curse belongs to someone else, someone who loved you, someone who could not have you, someone who made a terrible bargain with spirits to ensure that no other man ever would." Nkechi's mind raced backward through her life. And then she remembered. Adim, the chief's son, the boy who had wanted her when they were young, before her gift had fully manifested. The boy whose father had refused, saying his son would not wed the palm tapper's strange daughter. The boy who had disappeared into the forest for a full moon cycle and returned different, changed. The boy who had watched her marry Chuma with eyes that burned like embers. "It was him," Nkechi breathed. "He cursed me." "Yes," Ezzy said, "and the dream showed me more. The trader in the market? That was a spirit sent by him. The mirror was the vessel for the curse. 3 marriages, 3 deaths. After the 3rd, you would be broken completely. Then you would turn to Adam out of desperation, and he would have you at last." "But we are not married," Nkechi said. "So the curse does not care," Ezzy finished gently. "We share our lives. We share our sleeping mat. In the eyes of the spirits, we are married. I am the 3rd husband, and today is the day I die." "No!" Nkechi grabbed his arms. "We will run. We will hide." "You cannot run from spirits," Ezzy said with terrible calm. "But you can break the curse. There is always a way if you are willing to pay the price." He walked to the corner of the hut and returned with a small clay pot sealed with wax. "Inside this pot is poison," he said. "Not for the body, for spirits. I have been preparing it for 3 moons. Tonight, when the moon is full, you must go to Adam. You must pretend to accept him. When he brings you to whatever dark place he communes with the spirits, you must break this pot at his feet. The smoke will sever his connection. The curse will return to him 3-fold. "But what about you?" Nkechi's voice broke. "I will die today," Ezzy said simply. "This is written. This cannot be changed. But my death can have meaning. My death can be the key that frees you. After I am gone, after you break the curse, you will finally see your true face. The prophecy will be complete, and you will be free." Nkechi wept then, her tears flowing like river water after rain. Ezzy held her one last time. "Be strong," he whispered. "Remember that what happened was never your fault. You were a weapon wielded by someone else's hatred, but now you have the power to turn that weapon back." He walked into the forest alone that afternoon. They found his body at sunset by the river where Chuma had drowned. There were no marks on him, no signs of violence. "His spirit simply left his body," the healer said, confusion in his voice, as if something called it away, and he went willingly. The village buried Ease with little ceremony. 3 husbands, 3 deaths. They wanted nothing to do with Nkechi now. But Nkechi did not grieve. Not yet. She had work to do. That night, when the moon rose full and bright, Nkechi wrapped herself in her darkest wrapper and walked to Adam's house. Her hand clutched the clay pot Ease had given her. Adam was waiting. He stood in his doorway, his face lit by bonfire glow. When he saw her approaching, he smiled. It was the smile of a man who had finally won. "Nkechi," he said, "I wondered when you would come to me." "You cursed me," Nkechi said. "You made a bargain with dark spirits. You killed 3 men." Adam's smile did not waver. "They dared to touch what was mine. You were always meant to be mine, Nkechi, and now, finally, you have no choice. I am the only man who would still take you. You have nowhere else to go." "Take me to the place," Nkechi said. "The place where you made the bargain. I want to see it." Adam's eyes gleamed with triumph. He led her deep into the forest until they reached a clearing. In the center was a circle of stones, and in the center of the circle, a mirror. The same mirror, set upright in the earth, reflecting moonlight. Here, Adam said, gesturing. Here is where I called them, the spirits of envy and possession. I offered them everything, my future happiness, my peace, my very soul. And in exchange, they gave me you. They promised that after 3 marriages, 3 deaths, you would be so broken that you would turn to me, that I would have you at last. And it did not matter to you, Nkechi said softly, that you destroyed 3 lives, 4 lives, if you count mine, all because your pride was wounded. Love makes us do terrible things, Adam replied with no remorse. Nkechi stepped into the circle of stones. She walked to the mirror and stood before it. And for the first time since that day in the market, she looked fully into its surface. The pale woman was there, the woman with burning eyes and the terrible smile. But as Nkechi looked closer, she saw the woman's face was her own face, her own features, transformed by anger and power and suffering into something that could stare down spirits and not flinch. 3 times you will marry, Nkechi whispered. 3 times you will bury, and only then will you see your true face. And she understood. The curse was never meant to break her. It was meant to forge her, to transform her from a frightened girl into a woman who could stand in a circle of dark spirits and not be afraid. She turned to Adam. You made one mistake, she said. The spirits promised me I would see my true face after the 3rd marriage. You thought that meant I would be broken, but it means I would finally understand what I truly am. Not a victim, not a weapon, but something else. Something the spirits recognize and respect. She raised the clay pot. This is from my 3rd husband, the healer who understood curses better than anyone alive. She smashed the pot at his feet. The smoke that rose was black as the space between stars, thick as river mud, and it moved with purpose. It swirled around Adam's legs, climbing his body, seeking the connection between him and the spirits he had bargained with. When it found that connection, it pulled. Adam screamed. He fell to his knees, clawing at his chest. The mirror behind Nkechi began to crack. The spirits were being dragged back to their realm, and they were taking Adam with them. No, Adam gasped, his eyes wide with terror. They cannot. They can, Nkechi said coldly, because you tried to cheat them, but spirits always collect what they are owed, and now they are collecting from you, 3-fold. Adam's body began to age before her eyes. His skin withered. His hair turned white and fell from his scalp. His strong limbs became thin as dried sticks. He was paying back every year of happiness the spirits had stolen from others. When it was over, Adam lay on the ground, barely breathing, his body that of an ancient man, though he was not yet 30, harvests old. The mirror shattered completely, its pieces dissolving into dust. Nkechi looked down at him. You will live, she said, but every day of your life you will remember what you did. That is your curse now. That is your prison. She walked out of the clearing without looking back. When Nkechi returned to Okan, dawn was breaking. She walked through the settlement with her head high, and for the first time in years, she did not care what the villagers whispered. She went to her father's compound and found him sitting outside. When he saw her, his eyes widened. Nkechi, is it truly you? It is me, father, she said, and I am free. She told him everything. Her father wept as he listened, his old hands shaking with anger and sorrow and relief. The story spread through Okan like wildfire. By midday, everyone knew what Adam had done. The chief himself, Adam's own father, came to Nkechi and knelt before her. Forgive me, he begged. Forgive me for not seeing what my son had become. Nkechi looked at the chief, brought low by his own pride, and felt no satisfaction. Only weariness. I forgive you, she said simply. Because holding on to anger would be another kind of curse, and I am done with curses. In the days that followed, the villagers who had shunned her began to return, hesitant and ashamed. They brought gifts, offerings of apology. Nkechi accepted them with grace, but she did not forget. She rebuilt her hut at the forest's edge, made it larger, made it comfortable. And she began to do what Eze had taught her. She became a healer. She helped those who came to her with problems of the spirit as well as the body. She taught them that curses were real, but so was the power to break them. And sometimes, late at night, when the moon was full, Nkechi would stand outside her hut and look up at the stars. She would think of Chuma, who had loved her without fear, of Obina, who had been consumed by his own dark dealings, of Eze, who had given everything so she could be free. "Thank you," she would whisper to the night. "Thank you for loving me. Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for showing me my true face." The villagers said that Nkechi never married again, that she lived alone at the forest's edge for many years, healing the sick, teaching the young, walking between the world of the living and the world of spirits with ease. They said she grew old with grace, her face lined with wisdom rather than sorrow. The village of Okan learned many lessons from Nkechi's story. They learned that obsession masquerading as love brings only destruction. They learned that judging others for being different invites darkness into the community. They learned that the spirits respect those who face their fates with courage rather than fear. And most importantly, they learned that sometimes the curse is not the thing that happens to you, but the thing you carry inside yourself until you find the strength to let it go. And so they told Nkechi's story to their children, and their children's children, passing down the tale of the woman who married 3 times, buried 3 husbands, and emerged not broken, but transformed. The woman who looked into a mirror and saw not a victim, but a survivor. The woman who taught them that our true faces are not the ones we are born with, but the ones we forge through trial and suffering and the choice to remain human in the face of inhuman cruelty. And they lived remembering her wisdom. The end.